Yeah. Okay,
Hoka.
so Hoka, yeah.
Hoka.
So Hoka, which is a little bit like Greek, Hopa. Um, so I think everyone has some familiarity with the kleshas. We've been discussing them over the past 5 meetings, but I thought I would take a little brief tour through them all today just to remind us before we enter into the inquiry for today. So, the first thing about the kleshas is they describe human behavior when we're out of balance. So you want to begin looking at the kleshas from the point of view of balance. Like, who am I when I am my best self? Who am I when I am the elder I want to be? Who am I when I am in harmony and equilibrium with myself, with others, with the world? And so the kleshas then have meaning because these are the things that trip us up. They trip us up from within, in intrapersonal, they trip us up interpersonal, and they trip us up with our vision of the world. So when I'm out of balance, when kleshas are most useful is when I can stop, use my discernment and say, oh, look at me, I'm triggered now. Where did this come from? Right? And the where this comes from is described by these 5 kleshas. The first being ignorance of that place in which equanimity resides, that place of the greater sense of the universe, the organizing principle. So, how did I lose that? So, avidya means ignorance, but it's not just ignorance of intellectual knowledge, it's ignorance of the grand view of the world. So the second is asmita, and that is ego. So how much of my ego closes the doors of possibility? What in my ego? How am I defending myself through ego that I cannot be in proper relationship to myself, to others, and to the world? The third one is raga or desire, sometimes translated as need. What do I think I need that is so important that it's going to draw me out of this relationship with my better self? Where does the need, where does drive, the having, the acquiring, how does that throw me out when I'm really needy? Um, and the next one, the fourth, is devesha, which is uh, often translated as hatred, but is also aversion, avoidance. What is it I don't want to look at, and how does that drive me away from equanimity? And the last one is abhinavesha, and abhinavesha is translated as the sum of all fears. Fear that enters your body from all directions, in all ways, at once. And so it's a threat to your very survival. This is not a dance in the park kind of a threat that's at arm's distance. This is threat that shakes you to the core. Um, and so one of the interesting things at looking at the 5 kleshas is they never exist one at a time. They always come in a package. So I might first be triggered by something and I feel it's my ego's been bruised, but before I know it, I'm in avoidance. I mean, I hate that person because my ego's been bruised. Or it may work the other way. I may start with, I really want this. If I had this, I would be happy. And I'm driving myself to get this. And at the same time, my fear is what'll happen if I get it? What'll happen if I don't get it? Right. So you can see that they come in, they come as a cluster, they come in a cascade, they come one or two. And each of us has a pattern that, persists through life because they are our defense mechanisms. Just briefly, they're also our portal to to being better selves. if the discernment that we learn by looking at our trials is it's there to help us and teach us. So with that, I turn the inquiry over to you, Daryl, unless anybody has a question. You good, Daryl?
I'm good. Are there any
Okay,
questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Judy. Thanks a lot.
sure.
That's a good summary.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
first, a few words about listening, listening without judgment, listening to learn. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen master and teacher, said, "We often listen in a way that, if we agree with the words spoken, we say yes. And if we disagree, we say no. Either way, we learn nothing. Instead," he says, "we can listen as if the words spoken were a gentle rain falling on us, and allow those words, the rain, to soak into the soil of our heart and mind without judgment. I invite each of us to practice that listening this evening and anytime we're with the Sangha." So, we've talked about the kleshas individually. We've talked about how they usually manifest together in our lives when one is activated. Let's look deeper by identifying first what in our current lives causes us to feel threatened, to feel threat. And how do we react to it? How do we react to the threat? Then we can ask, how do the kleshas help us understand what's happening when this occurs, and perhaps reduce our suffering and support our equanimity? To begin,
Mhm.
I want to share with you just an example of how this shows up in my life. So I feel threatened by the thought of touching my wife, which springs from the fear that if I touch, she will feel aversion and I'll be rejected. My nature is that I want to touch and I want to be touched, to experience the love and intimacy through touch. Linda, my wife, is physically hypersensitive to touch, and it can cause both a physical and emotional pain for her being touched. So she wants to avoid that. We both realize the importance of touch in a marriage, so we try to find our middle road where we touch enough to support intimacy, but not so much as to cause harm. In a situation where I might initiate touch these days, I'm threatened by my inner voice, which says, if I do this, it'll probably be wrong, I'll get hurt, and she'll get hurt. Here's my real life example of that. A few days ago, I was going to say goodnight with a kiss and a loving touch from two warm hands. I was sure they were warm and soft. I thought to myself, it's going to be okay this time. It's going to be all right. So I got as far as actually touching her arms when she said, "You are bad." Those words, they struck me like lightning, and I felt crushed. I felt an actual buzzing like electricity across my shoulders and in the back of my neck and my head. Well, my ego showed up first and right then, and my ego sounded like, what the hell? How dare you? That's not who I am. I'm good. I'm not bad. Then, right on ego's heels, here comes aversion. I won't have this. I'm walking away. In walking away, I avoided talking about it, and we haven't talked about it. Instead, I chose ignorance. Ignorance that'll probably have me repeat this again and again. But shortly, ego came back. Ego wasn't finished, this time with a dose of self loathing. My inner voice saying, maybe I am bad. A good person would have solved this. It's myself I should be angry with. Shortly thereafter, attachment showed up. I'm feeling the pain. I want to feel better. I want to get away from it. So I dial up my go-to attachment, cannabis and intimacy with internet images. And then over days, we somehow find our way back to each other. And hopefully not to rinse and repeat. But that's my story. And that's kind of how it looks to me from the standpoint of these clashes. I want to hear about your stories. That's what's really important here. And I would ask you to share what you can with us, considering these questions. First, how do you feel threatened in your life right now? Right now. I mean, I opened up the newspaper this morning. All I have to do is look for 5 seconds and boom, threats right there. How is it for you? What causes you to feel threatened in your life right now, today? What does that threat feel like in your body? And how might the kleshas be at work in this and help us to understand it more? So with those thoughts, who's going to share first? Oka.
So Daryl, I'm speechless at some level of your bravery to share that specific example with us, and B, what you've gleaned from
Yeah.
understanding the kleshas, this cascading reaction that you have when you're threatened, and it's really remarkable. So thank you for sharing, and I thank you for being part of the Sangha in such a deep and rich way. I think we've all learned something from you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Judy. Thank you.
So the way in which I feel threatened, as long as I have the hoka stick, it is really by the administration of our government here in Washington, D.C. I'm just incredibly, I feel threatened on a physical level. We drove downtown to a favorite restaurant, which is, on 14th Street. I'm sure, Gary, you know it. We were, we were near 14th and U was, great restaurant there. And there, in my beautiful city are young men and women from all over the United States wearing flak jackets and carrying machine guns and threatening people walking on the street. Um, it's unspeakable, and I feel threatened. I feel that the world that I believed in, everything I believed in. So what happens for me from the visual is incredible aversion. How can they do this? How can the government do this? How can this be happening? So that's always my first is it's too awful and I don't want to look at it. But I cascade to what does it mean for generations of America? What does this mean to so then I have desire to like let's fix this. Let's fix this. So I was running away and fixing and hiding. And then I have to think. I have to go eventually to avidya. There must be, there's more than I know. Cultures have come and gone. People live and die at some level. If you pull all the way back, the immediate is awful, but the larger picture is not so bad. So that's my threat. But when I feel it, the threat, I literally cannot breathe. I literally feel it in my throat. I'm choked. I feel choked. I can't take a deep breath. Anyone
You know,
else?
it's really interesting just looking at the two examples that we had. Daryl spoke about an direct interpersonal relationship and something that he had control of in a way by his own experiences and knowledge. And Judy spoke of something that we have no control of practically. And it's out there and it doesn't involve interpersonal relationships directly, but it has such a visceral effect. Both have visceral effects. But I want to speak about something where you have some connection, but very little control. And um, the visceral effect on me is not as um, survival types of threat, but something that goes deep for me, and that is the relationship of my two daughters. Um, they have been at war since time began, practically, and have gone through long periods of years without speaking to one another. And recently, they had a meeting of the minds and hearts in some way, and suddenly they were best friends. And this was months ago, and they've maintained this amazing. It's not a bromance, I guess. What's it for women? I don't know. It's, I don't know.
Sisterhood.
Anyway, yeah, sisterhood, right? Exactly. For months now, and then I have a bequest in my what do you call it,
Will,
in the will that is a little bit complicated in a way, and they have been talking about it, and we've all been talking about it. It's open conversation, but and we've decided that they're going to take care of that. I'm not going to even worry about it. And one of them did something, and the other one felt that she wasn't informed, and they were suddenly at war again. And it just kind of blew up. And then my older daughter, who is very electric, called me on the phone and started talking at a time when I did not have time to listen to her. And then she got angry that, she couldn't talk. And it all snowballed. And now it's kind of this big ball of stuff hanging out there. So um, the klesha that comes up to me is I'm afraid I'm not going to die. I'm
Well, you
just,
know
I'm
what,
just,
David, right there, we could stop right
I know
there
you can
because this
assure
is
me.
very unrealistic.
Yeah. Well, all of them are unrealistic, actually, when you get down to it. But yeah, so there is that. I thought it was just interesting the counterpoint between the three different distances from the self, and the depth of the pain. The pain can doesn't have to be, like my life is at stake here. It can be something that's just important to you.
Where do you
You
feel
know,
it?
um, I feel that in my throat. I want to say something. I want to resolve it. I want to, it's urgency, and yet my deeper wisdom says this has to play itself out, and there's just no space right now to do that. So it's ongoing. It's, yeah, that's all I'll say, because I have ideas of solutions, but I don't want to get into that at this particular time.
Mhm.
I just want to get into the urgency of the feeling, and and I appreciate you saying, where do I feel it? Because it's not survival, it's action. It's here, maybe heart, you know it is in the heart too, between my love for these children who can't find peace. The other thing
Is
is
there,
that
can I
this
ask
is
a
what I
question? Can I
before
ask a
before you
question?
go there, I want to say one thing. I think the tendency, at least I can speak for myself, the tendency is to project the kleshas on other people. If only they could see this
Mhm.
wisdom, they could solve it. But the klesha is mine, and that's the place I look. So that's, what do I feel, not what do they feel, and what's their issues so much. Yeah. Go ahead, Judy. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that sometimes that asmita is, it shouldn't be this way.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be this, these are my daughters.
Right.
It shouldn't be this way. And I find when I'm hearing myself, it shouldn't be this way. It's me. It's my projection onto.
Yes. There's another thing I'm going to save that for later. Yeah. I think it's a discussion for solutions. Yeah.
Did Daryl, did you see that Mark Cooper has to leave? Mark, do you want to
I did. I saw that Mark's going to be leaving at 5 o'clock, or his time.
do?
That's 3 hours away.
I'll be on for a long time. My experience with thread is much more um, immediate. I thought my wife left. I was watching the basketball game, and she said she'd be home in an hour, and then it was an hour and a half, and I didn't confront her about that. I didn't know how to talk about it. There was a kind of it was threatening to say the truth or to even ask that particular question to her. And so I started to spin, and the spinning got faster. And pretty soon it was, uh, it, it was, um, she was not unfaithful, she was untruthful. And she should have called me. And I started to see um, my mind under thread makes up makes up stories that make others wrong and make me right. And it was like, oh, how interesting. And then to say it when she got home, I pretended. And then what I do, this is my what I call my racket. I don't talk to her. I give her one word answers until I irritate her so much that she has to say something to me. And that's how I deal with the threat of uh, uh, honest communication. It's just in my way about that. So I just, yeah, and it was, but it's not uncommon. So the thing about the glaciers is when you have a distinction no distinction, no power. So the glaciers give me a way to look at it from the 5 areas that were all melded together previously. So this is really an opening for me.
Mhm. Great. Thanks,
Beautiful.
Coop. Who's next? Oh, God.
So Daryl,
Yeah.
yes. So my wife and I are going through, well, I'm not going through it, but my wife is going through a health issue. And it's in the early stages. We don't really have a lot of information, but I'm finding that my imagination is kind of running wild with all the possibilities and the what ifs. So she just had a MRI on Saturday, and she's she's having a consultation with her oncologist tomorrow. But I'm finding like I'm afraid of things what could happen for her. And then on the other side, I'm also like, well, if it turns out okay, then everything's fine. But I'm also finding that I'm clinging to her, and uh, I think I'm just afraid that if something serious comes out of this, then the worst possible thing is I'd lose her, and so I'm going through all these emotions, and I'm finding it difficult to really deal with all this. But knowing these glaciers, I'm finding clinging, I'm finding, all these different phases that I'm going through. But I'm also trying to stay positive on this whole thing because I think that it's early stage, and so I think it's very treatable. But I'll tell you what, it's
Mm.
just my
Yeah.
mind's just racing right now. So hopefully things we'll know more tomorrow. But it's it's good that we're talking about these things, these glaciers, because it kind of helps me sort things out as far as uh, my thought process. So,
Yeah.
You got a lot to
Well,
carry, Gary. I hope it
I
turns
would
out
like
well.
I
well,
would
yeah,
like to
I'm
say,
hopeful
Gary,
that, like I said, it's early.
Mhm.
So
I would
But
early
like to
it's
say
stage.
that.
also interesting when when your mind is whirling, you can make yourself feel worse
Hmm.
than the actual reality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So it's just a really good thing to notice about that sense of
Right.
avidya. The stories we
Hmm.
make up and we tell to ourselves that we think we should believe are a way that we cause suffering on top of what's already a bad situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So it's
Yeah.
not that you can stop it, but you can have compassion for yourself that that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Well, I'm
lot
trying
to
to.
ask. It's a lot
Mhm.
to ask of yourself to feel totally at peace in an immediate situation that's unknown like this. But what I would say is that please allow us to be in the loop, and so we know and can support you in whatever's happening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks
I
so
Hmm.
much.
I relate to Mark and Gary in that. I mean, I'm sure we all do, but I'm a fabulous storyteller. I make up such creative things, and I'm miles away from reality um, with wild stories, and I've gotten really good at it. It's hard to pull myself back. So I really, really relate to, um, Mark with the interpersonal things, imagining what was the cause, what, all of that. And then the what ifs down the road. And personally, I'm dealing with a hip that has arthritis, bad arthritis, and I've been dealing with this for 3 years. And it's just really turning the corner, I can tell, and I'll have to have probably surgical intervention in the next bit. For me, I feel that in my core, and it feels like there's ego associated with that. I won't be able to do the things, all of the things that I used to do. Um, I might be reliant on people to help me, at least for the short term. And, surgical results, maybe in the long term, unclear. That's the worst case, but of
Yeah.
course I go there. Um, and so that's an aspect that's my current thing that's foremost in my mind, having just come back from a physical vacation that flared it up really
Oh, yeah.
significantly. And so that's where I'm at. But I appreciate everybody sharing their perspectives and their stories. I find it really, really meaningful to have those exchanges with you guys and to have those discussions.
Can I ask a question, Kathy?
Yeah.
So when you say you feel it in your core,
Mhm.
is it like you feel it in your gut, like
Mhm. Yep.
yeah, like it's clenched, or it's not like your abdominal muscles are
No,
compensating?
I'm trying to hold on to a story that I created about myself and for myself, and it's eroding very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's what it feels like to me. There's some fear, but mostly just that everything's going to flip over and change. Again, being very dramatic. Things will flip. My perspective will have to change, and it's just interesting.
I don't
Yeah.
know if this fits into the clashes or not. Is that how you pronounce it? Clashes
Glacia.
Glacius.
Places.
or not? It's something I shared some time ago, and you talk about how do you create, for me, more flexibility, but it kind of dovetails with Kathy's storytelling. It's not, I mean, I know my natural inclination quite often is to say, oh, if this could happen, and go down that path. Sometimes I can pull out of that and say, oh, I'm experiencing this so I can figure out how to manage it, because there is a reality of that I'm having to face, but there are ways to address it. And so sometimes going down that negative pathway is a way to help me think about, oh, this is something I need to consider, or this is something I hadn't thought about, or this is something I need to. So it becomes more information rather than a draw into a negative future. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm articulating
Mhm.
that right. So that's one question. I'm trying to see how that fits into the equation. And the other one is the one I shared some time ago that has been very helpful for me from improv theater, which is where when you have a situation, coming up with not just a different scenario, but very different. Where could you add humor into this story? Because, like Kathy was saying, she's a great storyteller, but she's going into it with a particular emotion that's led by what she's having as her first response. But I do find it, from what I found helpful from improv, was to realize, oh, this situation I could respond in a humorous way, or I could respond in a way where I'm thinking about how to be creative or thinking, so I don't know where these fit, but for me it helps to think that, oh, I actually created the first response, and going down those scenarios, and there's a reality in them. I'm not dismissing them, but I'm also saying I can create other possibilities in responding to the very same situation. But I don't know that that's cliche. I
So,
don't, yeah,
yes, so and may I respond to that?
yes.
Daryl, is that so your initial response, which is there's something happened to you and you had a story,
Mhm.
is that is a description of the klesha. That is the description of the obstacle.
Mhm.
And you use your creativity
Mhm.
to get yourself out of the rabbit hole that is what the klesha does. The kleshas tend to make us contract. Um, so your first reaction is to release that contraction and find a creative solution
Mhm.
to the problem, which I think is part of our conversation that we're going to work with later.
Okay.
But you're right. The first klesha is, oh my goodness, this thing happened to me.
Yeah.
It
Imaginary or real or what? Yeah.
right. It doesn't, yeah, it can be real, it can be imaginary. They're both imaginary is just as real as
Mhm.
real. So that you're right on the money there, and that is the klesha that's called a vidya. Like when you start telling yourself a story, there's I don't know what I don't know, and or ego is involved in that. So those would be really interesting things to look at because as Mark Cooper said, if you make the distinction using the klesha, you go, oh, that's my pattern. Oh, isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
And this is the solution I found to it.
Mhm.
Oh, this is my toolkit for getting out of trouble, but oh, I recognize I'm in this trouble.
Mhm.
Does that help you?
Yeah.
The
And
distinction?
the idea of creating other
Mm,
responses to the same thing, that's the same thing. You're getting yourself opening that space up so you're not as consumed by what I call a vortex, kind of like a water,
right,
when you get
yeah,
in the water and get kind of pulled down.
right,
Yeah.
right. By definition, the kleshas are the vortex.
Okay.
Those
Mhm.
those are the vortices in our life.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
a
in simple
helpful.
terms, it's what causes suffering.
Mhm.
5 elements that cause suffering.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Kate. Appreciate that. Um, would anyone else care to share?
Mm.
Carla, you have a thoughtful look on your face, and now a
Well,
beautiful smile.
it's the fact that I have various, like everyone, various ways, like lenses, how we look at any issue, any moment. And I haven't been on this meeting where you're using this container to do an inquiry. So I'm trying to enter your world as I go through what's worked for me. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, the languaging is I'm having trouble with. But I can
Well,
just say the issue and what's happened.
just can I just interject one thing, Carla, before you start? Is what we're looking at now is the issue or the experience, not the solutions for the experience. In other words, we're not looking to what your strategies are, but what's in your life that's alive for you that has brought you some pain recently or
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, that helps. So yeah, I live here in Ecuador and we don't have the politics and I can take a sigh of relief. So mine is about about my transition from being what I call the worker bee, which is like pressure, accomplishments, lifetime of having many things I've accomplished, getting great uh, approval for that and acknowledgement and inspire people to a moment where I needed to not do that. And I got sick and I was on a retreat, couldn't talk, didn't want to, and I was not wanting to talk a lot. Something was shifting. So ultimately, what came to me was being okay with having fun, putting self-care first was the shift. And it's not a solution, it was an awareness of how intense my achievements and like carrying a burden from my family that I have all these gifts and I must use them. I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, I'm a this, I'm a that, I've been a filmmaker. Oh, God, you know,
What did
should,
that feel like?
shouldn't I be saving the world? It feels like pressure.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Feels like, in my
yeah.
job, tight.
Now we
And
can help with that. Us dentists.
I have the solution, but I'm not going to say it.
Good.
Good.
We'll talk about it. We're coming right up to it.
That's it. Now
That's a
I'm with
good
you.
one.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Carla.
Thanks, Carla. That's a big one, though.
Yeah.
It's a big
Life
shift
change.
to put the backpack of responsibility down. It's a big one.
Right.
And yeah, I think that there's a lot of ego in that. Who will I be if I don't carry this
Mhm.
burden? Who could I possibly be without that? Maybe I'll feel empty. Maybe,
Right.
yeah, that's threatening, right? You put the
Right.
backpack down. That's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so blessed. My family was astonished that I became anything.
David. Oh.
We'll meet in the middle someday.
Just kidding.
I'd like to just do a little shout out to Joyce. Joyce, as you're listening to all of this, I wonder if you have any thoughts about, how threat shows up for you. What's going on in your life?
You're muted.
Um, I don't know that I really have much for this discussion because I'm not willing to relate to some things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think I know when I feel good, but I'm not sure with the fear part to identify that. So probably today I'll do more listening.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other thoughts to contribute at this point? Then I think it's time that we could move to looking at strategies. And
Can I
I'd
just say
like,
something?
oh, please.
Ed, you're notably silent. Is this
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Ed?
I was giving in to exercising my deepest wisdom by keeping my mouth shut. Uh,
Well, we've
I thought you've
discovered
been
you.
talking all along, but you've been muted.
I'm working on mind melts. It's kind of a scattershot thing because there's several things relative to this, and I really hadn't kind of narrowed in on what thing might be applicable for conversation here. Other than that aspect of dealing with the kleshas and how, unfortunately, they don't come singly, but they come in bunches, and how one might lead you to another, which might tumble you back to the first one and get you to a third one. And how these things, I mean, they're signposts for me. And I tend to feel, how can I need to put this in context? This is probably why I wasn't talking. I hadn't figured out how to put it in context. But dealing with the reality of self-worth and self-examination in a caretaking mode. My wife has some serious challenges, and I've been moved into a caretaking zone, which I feel woefully unprepared for. And it opens up some things that I'm okay with, some things that I'm good at, and things that I'm not good at. And how being able to identify these things, like knowing when I'm feeling aversion to something and why am I feeling aversion to it? Because partially I don't want to do it, partially I'm feeling, why me? What the hell did I do to have to earn or deserve this? And then moving into that, what is going to be my strategy or my tactic? Am I going to sit down and face it? And am I going to ignore it? Or am I going to use, and this is where it gets really weird, am I going to use my recognition of aklesia as a barrier to not moving forward, to not trying to find a solution or a resolution, and going back and saying, well, it's asmita, and I just need to sit with that instead of trying to go, okay, so that is your ego, but why is it an egoism thing? What are you trying to avoid? What thing do you have attachment to in terms of how do I view myself? How am I going to be viewed by others? And like you had said something, Darrell, which again, hugely courageous, what you opened with. But that whole thing about having an attachment to not being judged, and having a need, partially from an ego basis, partially from a version of not being thought of as inadequate, and whether it's me doing it or it's an outside source doing it. And I feel that in my chest, and I feel that in my temples. So I think I've tightened my face so much my hair fell off the top of my head. Just from that, those things being in there and having to, one of the good things about this is once it's there in front of me, I can't pretend I don't know. So having the kleshas and having them identified as tools is hugely important, because then you take that next step of, I take that next step of, I can't I can't pretend I have no freaking idea. I might have ignorance about why it's there. I might have ignorance about what I'm going to do to move forward. But I have to face the fact that there is ignorance about the true nature of what's going on. It's gotten me into this freaking situation. And it's hard, but somebody said if you're not feeling any pain or any suffering, you're probably not doing it right. And part of me laughs at that. Part of me goes, "Oh, when I get hold of you for that one." But and that's the thing that leaves me sometimes just needing to be silent, is how do these things, when they're all mixed up together, what do I do? How do I discern? What do I not do? And facing the reality of the ignorance or maybe idiocy of self-judging based on perceptions of others. Unless I share something of what's going on in my life, who the hell really knows what's on my mind and what am I dealing with and why? And that's one of the things that our study with this helps to bring out. And that's one of those things I think that helps put me into a better position of being an elder, to avoid those assumptions of myself or of others. And then, when and how and to whom do I ask for help?
Yeah.
And I'll stop there.
Well, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blame you, Judy.
Ed, thank you so much. That's wow. I just salute your courage and your love.
I think it's an illustration, Ed, of how useful these tools are. That's all they are. They're words that help us distinguish what it is we're feeling and how we're reacting, but at least it lets us look at them so that we can see with clear eyes. Oh, this is why I'm reacting in this way. And then we have choice. Then we have choice. We can
Yeah.
choose to face it. We can choose to ignore it. As Kate says, we can choose to be creative around it. But if we don't have the capacity to distinguish these various parts of our sufferings, then we don't have any access to it. Just is all one big mush. So,
Yeah, and we're stuck suffering, you know?
right.
Like one of the lines of the four basic principles is caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. You
Right.
know, that's where you're at. And holding to self-centered thoughts, that's exactly the freaking dream.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that kind of segues into one of the things I was going to talk about, solutions. And that is, in my mind, I have this agenda to finish before I die, so to speak. It's kind of held loosely, but there are things that if they're not buttoned down before I die, then I'm going to be unhappy. You know, like it's going to be too late, but I think I'll be unhappy afterwards.
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 So now we understand you believe in an afterlife.
I'm really concerned about how I'm going to feel afterwards.
Screw them if they can't take a joke.
Right. Anyway, I have this thing, and I have to keep telling myself that there is no way that everything that you think that can be completed is going to be, I'm like the curtain's going to go down and I'm going to say, ta-da, I finished everything. I mean, it's the silliest viewpoint, but it's there in the background. So that's one of the things that I think it comes from that deeper place, is the realization that things are going to go on after I die, and they might get resolved then, and it doesn't matter. So, you know, my satisfaction with my two daughters' relationship does not have to get to a place where they are infinitely in love with each other for the rest of eternity, or I'm going to be a miserable. That's a, you know, just a pipe dream.
Yeah, I kind of want to.
So
Sorry.
recognizing that helps.
Sorry.
Who was going to say something?
Oh,
I heard a
I was. I just kind of echo. I think it came from Joanna Macy or somebody, but you know, for me, there have been just some social issues that feel like all of a sudden, like the knees have been cut out from under them currently, and it pulls me back to the late '60s when I was doing a lot of things, and it feels like, you know, I was thinking the legacy I would leave would be different to this next generation. And so I think what's helped me, David, around that is realizing that everything I've done has actually been on the shoulders of others before me,
Mm,
and that we leave it for for the next generation as well to
mhm,
move from us forward. Because
Mhm.
otherwise, like you, I was feeling like somehow this should all be wrapped up in a nice little bow, you know, and think
right.
somehow, you know, democracy working in a perfect way or something for all people. And so, yeah, for some reason that was comforting to realize that everything I've done is, you know, on the shoulders of my grandmother or on my dad. And, you know,
Right.
we are part of a larger collective history. So it helped me for sort of go, oh, yeah, I kind of let go a piece of that sense of urgency or
Yeah.
of
Okay. I just
individual
wanted to,
responsibility. Yeah.
I just wanted to add something because I had a conversation on a call just before we got on this one. relative to what you just said, Kate, and what you had said, David. And it's about carrying burdens and carrying issues and accountabilities that were never really mine to fix, that when I was not going to be able to mend these things, and how at some point you get to that point of knowledge that I can put those things down because I never really had permission to pick them up and move forward with them as if I were the arbiter of solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge relief to understand that I'm not responsible for eliminating duality on the planet.
Oh, is that true? I thought you
You,
were.
you
No,
coward.
you are, Judy.
Yeah, but I believe in duality, so there we go. But
It's
yeah,
in your face.
it's in my. I
I
think
mean,
that
it's in all our faces.
this is part. I hate to bring it back to the cliches, but this is part of avidya, because true vidya, avidya means not, but true vidya means there's this vast universe of possibility around us, and we've only perceived this much. So if I believe I'm carrying the burden of generations, no, it's not. It's not just me. It's all the generations before and the ones who will come after. So it's not that it lets you off the mat completely, but it gives you a larger perspective so that you can move back into some form of equilibrium,
Hmm.
right? And I find that very, very useful.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Kate, I think you brought that up, and that's really a good avenue we went down there.
It's a
Thanks.
good.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think there's also this piece too. It's the parable of the two arrows. So there is pain, there is suffering, there is badness. Things happen. We have no control over those. Cancer happens, right, Gary? But how we twist the second arrow, that we do have some control over. That we can look at that second arrow and say, do I really need to twist it in that way? Is that going to make the situation better? It's like, okay, maybe I should explore why I'm twisting this arrow as much as I am. And I find that very useful to say, oh, maybe I could just stop twisting this one today, this minute,
And
and might come back.
yeah,
And
sorry. I don't know where this fits, if at all, but one of the things that's been happening for me recently is finding young people who are passionately wanting to dig into some of these hard issues that are, like in Portland, issues around homelessness and hunger, and
Mhm.
and they have such different things that they're thinking about as ways of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And for reason, it's kind of like that. No, I guess it reinforces my sense that I'm just one part of this continuum, and that actually them grappling with these things, it just is fascinating for me to see how energizing it is for them to see ways that they can view it in ways that's different than how my generation has viewed it. So it
Hmm.
kind of reinforces that sense that yeah, they're going to go on my shoulders. And it gives me hope, I have to say. I've been very impressed with, I have 3 interns working on different projects this summer, and the brilliance of some of these young people is just, yeah, bedazzling. I don't know what the word is, but it's just been wonderful to be in their presence.
The question about that brought up a reflection about the kinds of music the generations, like its poetry and its storytelling lyrics. And current music, they dive pretty deep and they expose pretty raw feelings, which we didn't. We were like, he doesn't love me, I'm leaving, he's leaving me, blah, blah, blah. And it's just wondering about your young interns having this culture of being in the mess, being in the messy feelings, being more okay with them. What do you think?
Well, I
Well,
think
they
that's
say
what
every generation puts a hero up on the pop charts. Um, yeah, I think that was in a Paul Simon song.
Like that.
And, and
Yeah,
everybody has something. I mean, we had Leonard Cohen, which would eviscerate you with the starkness of what's
uh,
going on versus, the Hollies or something like that, which are all bubblegum. So I think every
Mhm.
generation has that type of stuff.
yeah, but it's more common, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
It was unique to have a Leonard Cohen. It's not unique to have these rappers out there and these raw lyrics, you
you got
Yeah.
to
know.
understand what the rappers are saying. That's my problem.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
but
Leonard Cohen was actually one of the breakthrough things that led us toward in this direction.
Mm.
Whereas before, in the 50s, music was how you look tonight and,
Mhm.
am I, you know, all kinds of superficial romantic, um,
some enchanted evening. You
some
will
enchanted
find
evening, right?
answers.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Exactly. So music, I think what you're saying is right on. The music is reflecting a very deep psychological undertone of what's going on in the younger people. My experience with the younger people is that they are much more concerned about their own small societal groups than they are about what's happening in the world. Um, they don't care about community organizations and things like
I'm not,
that, generally speaking.
yeah, that's a local, that's from place to place. I think there are organizations all over the United States with lots of active young people. Lots of young people went to No Kings. There's the organization Ari's working with is national, and there are lots of young people.
Yeah.
Jamie
Well,
Raskin has a whole program of youth and democracy. There's lots going on. It's not as obvious in the media, and so we don't know about it if it's not in the media that you're checking.
yeah. Yeah, my experience is as I said, but I don't have the global knowledge. I don't have any way of knowing that. I've heard other people say similar things, but Joyce,
Let me, I have just a feeling on that. I understand what David is saying because I see the same thing. All the traditional organizations where people joined are lacking members. But I think young people may be just reaching out in a different way rather than joining an organization that's established. That they're reaching out um, to more. I don't know the word I wanted. Not modern uh, things that are happening now that probably were not the experience of
yeah,
us when we were younger.
Mhm.
that's what I was trying to say. Actually, they have lost the traditional connections, and they're into things that interest them, and they may be national, but they're not traditional as much.
They're
Yeah.
not our tradition. Again, it's back to it's
Yeah,
avidya. We only know what we know.
Yeah.
We only know this, what we know. And there is this that we don't know.
Yeah, and someone was explaining to me, what's her name? Taylor Swift.
he was explaining it to you.
Yeah, I really don't know her music.
Mhm.
And since she's engaged to a football guy instead of a poet, shame on her. But how, because someone was saying that it's all about their personal little lives and their breakups and how their pain becomes their world and how some people hide in their pain and use their pain to make their existence worthwhile. But then they were saying there's other things that are in her songs where she's encouraged people to reach out and to have a broader reach in terms of how women are treated, things in society about the inequities financially or the homeless and all of that stuff. So I think there are things that are out there, but just don't always come into our purview, our frame of reference. And I don't plan on joining Spotify to listen to Taylor Swift songs, but it's good to know that, somebody somewhere is getting something out of it that's more than just their narrow little alley.
Yeah. So thank you. And Daryl, I'm going to remind you it's 11 after 8. And I'm sorry I meant to do this a few minutes ago, but
Oh, that's okay.
the conversation was so interesting.
Yeah, it was great.
So
May I add a couple of fun comments before we go?
sure, Joyce.
I found a book that says things you learn if you live long enough. And they're all good, but I'm thinking it is only possible to live happily ever after on a day-to-day basis. And
Excellent.
another one, he who laughs lasts.
I love
He who
that.
lasts.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Good ones.
So I'd like to take us to closing by speaking 2 passages this evening. One by Lao Tzu, which kind of summarizes what we've been talking about and shines a little bit of light on strategies. That passage is Finding Unity. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. Stop up the openings. Close down the doors. Unravel all confusion. Rub off the sharp edges. Harmonize the light, your light. Give up contention. This is called finding the unity of life. When love and hatred cannot affect you, profit and loss cannot touch you, praise and blame cannot ruffle you. You are honored by all the world. And to those words, I'll add this thought from the Buddha. The Buddhas do but tell the way. It is for you to labor at the task. I'll close with that. And to each of you, thank you for a great evening and aloha.
Thanks, everybody.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha.
We've gotten so Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Okay. What's up, my brother? See you.
Ciao. Ciao, Belle.
Yeah, really.
Have a great night.
Adios.